Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be painting these very loose mountains in the back of this landscape painting. I'm keeping it loose, very unfussy, and making sure I'm using the same colours in the sky that I'm using with the mountains, so we've got some colour harmony. Right, so let's get started. So to begin with, I'm going to be mixing up some more cobalt blue with some light red. Not as much light red as the cobalt blue, but it should give us a really nice rich colour, which we'll use to start painting in the foremost mountain that's going to be closest to us. So I'm just mixing that up, making sure it's nice and rich. And the brushes I'm using today are a 1-inch Hake brush. It's got some really soft bristles and holds lots of water and lots of pigment, which is great. I'm going to be honest, paint the majority of this just with the 1-inch Hake brush so that it stays nice and loose, but I will finish off with a number 1 round. So I've watered down that dark mixture slightly on my palette, and I'm just using the Hake brush to dab in the suggestion of the nearest mountain. I've added a little bit of yellow ochre, which is the colour that I used in the sky for the light section. And then I'm just using very small dabs and sweeps, taking some of the pigment off the brush so that it's not too dark, and then sweeping that in. So as you can see, I'm not using very many brush marks at all because I want it to stay in keeping with the foreground, which is very loose. So next I'm going to be mixing up a bit of a lighter pigment. So I've washed off my brush, I've taken a tiny dab of it, and I'm going in behind for a mountain that's going to be further behind. Mixing in some more yellow ochre, probably a little bit more of that's needed, because I want these to give the impression that they're further away and they're sort of lighter. And still using this Hake brush, I am just dabbing that paint in. So I want this mountain to be lighter than the one in front. So I haven't completely covered the whole of the mountain with paint. I've done a little bit of dry brush at the bottom. I've also added a lot more yellow ochre, and I still think it's a little bit dark. So what I'm going to do is wash off my brush completely and then take some paint off that mountain. So I'm using the damp brush. There's no pigment left. I've used the tissue to take most of the water out of the brush, and then I'm using it to sweep it across to remove that top layer of paint. Now I could have switched to a smaller brush for this, but I wanted it to be large, loose movements. And as you can see, the white of the paper is starting to come through, and it's given us that lighter effect. Now, I know I was going to say I'd do it mostly with a Hake brush, but I do need the number 1 round. So I take this, add a little bit more of the yellow ochre to it, and just start to sweep that into the mountain. So we've taken off a lot of the pigment over the top, so we're able now to add in some lighter colours, so it will take the yellow ochre. And then just using a tiny bit of the darker mixture to tidy up those very tops of the mountains, just to give it a little bit of a neater finish. So I'm just using the brush now to sweep it over so we haven't got any lines in the paint that look a little bit out of place, that it's nicely blended. Now I'm just taking a bit more of that darker mixture and I'm tidying up that first mountain. It was quite jagged because I used the Hake brush, so I'm just neatening it up. Nothing too detailed, but just neatening up the top edge of it. A little bit more paint, and then just filling in that little gap at the back with a very distant mountain. So I've hardly used any paint for this one. I gave the suggestion of the outline at the top with the dark paint, but watered down. And then I've used a mixture of the yellow ochre with the dark mixture, just to give it that little bit of colour, so it looks like it's got some light coming from behind it. And I think that's us pretty much finished for the mountains. So I hope you found that useful. I've picked up a few tips and tricks there for how to stay loose with your mountain painting. I really liked it. I liked the mixture of colours, and I liked the fact that it was a very loose, abstract landscape. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.